3 months ago, we published with my colleague, Jérôme Casas here, so you have the picture, so you can meet him, he's in the room, and if you have any question about this talk, you can also try to meet him. We published a paper about insects, and the idea was to try to see the context of interaction between insects to achieve sustainable development goals. So we tried to focus on the new paradigm in this paper, and we were quite happy about this. We had a kind of strong brainstorming about this, and at the same time we published it and we proposed the insect to be like solutions instead of being considered only friends or enemies. I just saw the title of the conference, actually, that just came out at the same moment. So I wrote to Philippe, and I wrote him an email just to try to tell him about this. And I say, oh, hi, Philippe. The article argues that beyond being friends and foes, insects should be seen as solution to global problems. And so Philippe answered me in an email. Well, far from the idea of neglecting biodiversity as a solution, there is a multiplication of concepts from the term auxiliary, now obsolete, to the suppliers of services and other contribution. You understand the term friends includes all those of that in your article. So actually, I was really excited at the beginning. I would say, Philippe, we have something new and something that could be interesting for you. And he said, oh, yes, it's included in the term of friends. So now I have like 9 minutes to try to, my aim is to convince you that the term of insect-based solution would be different of what we call about friends or ecosystem services. So to tell you a story about this, I need to tell you a bit more about what is sustainable science. This is a kind of new academic discipline. Maybe you have seen it burgeoning in the different newspaper. Now you have PNAS, it has its own section about sustainable science. You have also our own nature journal, Nature Sustainability. So this is something which is like increasing. And what we saw, for example, in the conference is that mainly the different sessions that we have are within different disciplines, which is kind of normal. And we have the last session tomorrow about insect in the future, and this is more like an open session. And what is sustainable science is that it is more a problem-driven discipline than more problem-driven science than a science that is driven by disciplines. It is also a very strongly transdisciplinary science. That means that it brings different kind of expertise on this common problem. This is what it wants to do. And it tries also to combine scholarship and practice. That means that you don't only have people in the academy and then having scholarship and practice, but you have a kind of mixing of the different issues. Also, what is really important for this new science is to try to combine the global problems and also local problems, so to try to make the connection between both of them. For example, global disease and also what's happening concretely in one city about this disease, and also to have an interaction between northern countries and southern countries. Also, another issue about sustainable science is that participatory research, working with directly with the stakeholders, is something very important, because for the adoption and to try to have solutions to global problems, you need to involve people from the beginning of your research and not only as end users of the research. But what is still true is that it is also based on theory, methods, and innovation that you can do doing like pure science, and it is really well based on hard science to make this kind of solution. So within the last year, since 2015 actually, the sustainable science is developed within the context of the Sustainable Development Goals. So there are like 17 Sustainable Development Goals that have been defined by the UN in 2015. You can see here they are divided in broadly 3 categories. One about the biosphere, so you have like goals about life on the planet or goals in life in aquatic system. Then you have those that are related more to society, zero hunger, for example, or health. And then you have those goals that are more related with the economy, and which is also a very important aspect of the dynamic of the world. So the idea here, we tend to put the insects only in this part of the Sustainable Development Goals, but you have 17 of them, and you have like more than 160 different targets for these different goals. And the idea is to try to see how insect can be more applied to different parts of the sustainable goals. And actually the RD, the French academic system is quite complex, but the RD is one of the institutions that works mainly on trying to achieve the sustainable development goals. This is my institution. And this is what I want to try to show you now. So is it really important to do this? I mean, well, we can still do our stuff about insect biology, ecology. Here I had a kind of search on internet. This is, I don't know if you know these new tools on Google. This is Ngram User that takes from the literature, especially books, the hits of the different, the appearance of the different words that you can find. And actually, so I did the research like 2 days ago about the three words. So you can see here, you have a kind of ups and downs of the insect, and then you have a decreasing contribution of this word in the global literatures in the 20s. Those that are interested on how it works, there are several papers, including in Science, about this, so I'm not going into detail about this. And then you have the biology keyword that also has a kind of decreasing trend of contribution, ecology the same, and you can see that there is one science which is really rocketing over the last year, which is the sustainable science. And actually, so the idea of having combining insect and sustainability science is that maybe instead of having this decrease, you can combine the sustainability and have a kind of up again for the insect word. So if you have to think about only one thing about our paper, and so it is already published in Ecosystem Services, it's online. It's about this figure. So this figure tries to really have a synthesis about what the difference we make about the different perception of the insect in the literature and in the society too. So here you have first what is seen insect as enemies. So you have here mainly, let's say, pests and vectors. So you have here the 17 Sustainable Development Goals I was talking about. And so when you talk about these insects as enemies, you mainly trigger the Sustainable Development Goals 1, 2, and 3. And when you look at how society and academy interact to achieve this kind of problems, is that you have like enemies, so the academy is trying to fix the problem, and then once the problem is fixed, it tries to give the solution to society. So this is one way of seeing the insects. The other way is to seeing them as allies. This is more like ecosystem services. So here you have like different services, pollination, control, biological control, or for example, nutrient cycling. And so when you think about insects as allies or maintaining ecosystem services, then you have a bit more sustainability development goals that are targeted, mainly the one about life on land and peace, and other also like good health or zero hunger. So in this case, you have mostly the academy that is increasing the knowledge about the ecosystem services provided by insects, and then it is a proof of insect as allies, and then this information goes to the society. So what we propose really in this paper is to try to shift from these two paradigms, the bad and the good, to shift as only like one paradigm, which is insect as solution. So in this paradigm, the idea is that you will complete many sustainable development goals that you will do when you have only the allies paradigm. So for example, here we have three examples. This is feeding the world, or biological control, or biomimetic. And the idea that you will have an interaction between the academy and the society, and you have a kind of combination of different groups working on this aspect. So I will try to illustrate this part of the table to show you what I mean beyond achieving the different sustainable development goals. So we had some nice introduction already by Chris and also by Luciano. I will focus on three major issues related to insects. The first one is about biological control, and I will show you like three examples in each. This is about money, because if we want to achieve sustainable development goals, you see that there was something about economy. And this is a company in Brazil, maybe Luciano knows it. It's called Bugs. I can read it, but well, it's Bug something. So what they do is that, well, we know very well, and Marilyn showed us about the biological control from tiny wasp. But the problem of this kind of biological control when compared to the chemicals is that it's very hard to apply them on very huge areas. So what they did in this company, is that they had some new techniques, physiology of the eggs to have more breeding and also much better conservation of the eggs. And then they use drones. So they combine their knowledge with robotics and with other people specialized in other areas of science to bring these eggs on different parts in the field. And they could really cover huge areas of field and try to propose this as a solution against the pests. So you have some good research, interdisciplinary research. In this part, you have like 65 employees, 20% growth each year, and you have exportation in 16 countries. So this is the kind of business that you can do with this. Also, you can see the Forbes, you know, these big media about companies. Among the 5 young companies making an impact on the world to watch on 2019, there is one company, which is a Canadian company. This is the bee vector technology. So in this case, they use bees to directly, so you can see here, they have this small capsule, and inside the capsule you have some killer fungus, so the fungus that will kill some different pests, and so the bees will go there in the hive, and then they will themselves travel with the fungi, and they will be able to directly control the different pests in the field. So this is really using the insect as a solution. And what is really new here is that you will target some different sustainable development goals. Of course, you have like the well-being, but you also have the decent work and economic growth. You have innovation, industries. You have responsible consumption and consumption, life on land, and also partnership for the goal, which is what you have among disciplines here. Another example, and tomorrow you will have, I guess, a very nice presentation from Marcel on this specific issue, which is insect as food and feed. When we think about this, we think mainly about zero hunger. I mean, that will help people having less hunger. But there are also other issues that are really important in this. For example, the impact that it can have to empower women. So there are not very hard science on this, and I think that social sciences should be more in trying to have some data about this. There are some evidence, mainly from foundation, for example, here the Border Consortium Foundation in Asia, or Bug for Life, which is another foundation in Burkina Faso. But there are some evidence that actually the insects allow the economic empowerment of women and their independence in villages. Also, the nutritional values of insects are really important and relevant for pregnant women. Cricket farm in Burmese, for example, they have been shown to be really important in refugee camps. This is some interaction that we don't particularly do when we think about insects. More hygiene also in towns when compared to cattle, so this is another positive effect, and lower climate footprints. So what you can see that here again, when I think about insects, not only as bad as good, but you can see really as a solution, you can see that different sustainable development goals can be achieved within one issue. The last example that I will talk about here is about bioinspiration. This is maybe one of the most sexy field of research. There was a nice review and special issue in Current Opinion in Sex Science edited by Jérôme last year. And here again, you can have some very good example of how insects can help achieving the sustainable development goals. I will take a few of them. So for example, we talked about mosquitoes as enemies, but you can also see them as inspiration. For example, when you look at a mosquito here, you can see that to be able to insert here is nose. I don't have the word I can see here. This in the skin, and actually these researchers have developed a new technology to have this kind of guide to be able to insert some very tiny probes in the brain of people to put some specific markers that allows following the health of people. You have also some very interesting new technology that are inspired by the flapping wings of insects to improve biotechnology like wind energy. So you know that when you have like wind energy, you have some very hard turbines, but now they try to have some flexible turbine that will adapt to different wind velocity, and this is inspired by insects. So you can see that this is mainly for improving health, this is for new energies, And for example, here you have another example of large-scale fabrication of bioinspired fibers to directional water collection. So this is really some very applied stuff to have more water in places where there are little of them. And you can see here that they have thought about new fibers to be able to direct the water into storage structures. So you have many other different discipline examples about this, about the biofuel technology. You can also have modeling patrol in cities that are inspired by ants. So here we have, we are in different sustainable goals like, where is this one about life, peace, justice, and strong institution. At the beginning, you don't think that insect can help about this, but actually there are some examples about this too. The architecture also, to build some new cities. And here you have another example of ant flows, the study of ant flows that can inspire how to have some better routing in urban environments. So the point is, and this is almost my last slide, is that we really think that we need to shift from only the friend and foes view to a more like positive view and solution view to try to fix problem. To do this is not really easy, so that was a figure that was published last year in Nature Sustainability, where it shows that the different pathway to sustainability science, and there is one corner of the figure which is really interesting, because we think really that we in some way need to rethink the way academia is organized, and we need to have this both for research and teaching. So we need to have more interaction between science, engineering, and humanities. I don't know if we, for example, in this room, maybe we are more academics and not so many people from engineering and humanities, so we need to have more interaction. Also, we need to try to strengthen, develop in-world partnership. And at the end, we need to catalyze research center, insect research in development action in translational and conversion centers. So for example, to breed this kind of big centers to be able to respond rapidly to crises. For example, the army fallworm in Kenya, it was a big problem, and what we did is just put some pesticide because we didn't have this kind of big center that could think about how to fix the problem. So that was my point today. I would like to thank the French Academy for giving me an opportunity to tell you about this, and I would like also to share this citation by Bradley Miller. It's the quality education with it, the number 4 in Sustainable Development Goals, which say teaching a child not to step on a caterpillar is as valuable to the child as it is to the caterpillar. So thank you.